Hey everybody, Tony D, Little Jones sleeping in the other room. We're just going to go through some headlines in various places. Over at Just the News, Smoking Gun, Comey told Clapper FBI unable to sufficiently corroborate Steele dossier. I assume that means Steele, or maybe it means the actual guy. Then signed the FISA warrant anyway. No surprise. I mean, these guys, it's all about plausible deniability. That's how they do things. You know, if they can knowingly break ethics and knowingly say, well, I wouldn't know that, so therefore I can do it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's what they do. CNN Stelter, Saturday Night Live this weekend didn't mention Cuomo's nursing home beer virus story. Well, of course they didn't. Why would they bash their own kind? I wouldn't expect Saturday Night Live to bash a Democrat like Cuomo, especially since they live in the city. Over at Post Millennial, former drug dealer who shot 2 people hired by House Dems for top diversity and inclusion job. Now, I'm all for second chances, but this is a bit much. I mean, this guy shot 2 people. I mean, that's a bit much. I think that's a bit much. But, you know, as the Democrats keep pushing the boundaries on the left, and again, it's about limits. There are no limits for the radical left, right? They keep pushing them and pushing them. And back in the 60s and the 70s, that was a positive thing because the conservatives had run things for so long and everything was so staid, and there were people who were marginalized because of their lifestyle, because of who they were. And yes, pushing the boundaries was a good thing for in some aspects. But now that they can't stop. They can't stop pushing these boundaries. So you got a guy here. I mean, this isn't the only ExCon that's been in government. Portland hired a guy, and similar background. It's pretty extreme when you've been in a gang and you shot 2 people. It's different if you were in a gang and you didn't shoot anybody. He also slashed somebody with a razor, according to the article. That's pretty extreme. You know, even if you come back from that to be in government, you're passing policy that will impact law enforcement. Seems to be a bit of a conflict of interest. That's just me. DeSantis slams Biden administration for lockdowners while Florida is thriving. Man, DeSantis just gets better and better every day. Welcome to the free state of Florida. Everything's open, and you know, they're just charging ahead. Sounds great to me. Oh, we did this one. Looking at Gab. What's the big story? Bannon's strategy for Trump is to run for Congress in 2022 and impeach Biden. I don't know. Is that a serious strategy for Trump? It'd be weird. I think he could do it. I mean, he'd crush whoever he run against. I mean, if he ran and just took Nancy Pelosi's spot as House Speaker, wow. That would just be wow. And then I say DeSantis for 2024. We covered some of these headlines. GOP lawmakers choose Mitch McConnell and Liz Cheney over pro-Trump base. Yeah, I mean, this is from the Gateway Pundit. I think they'll eventually, most of them will be forced to pick the Trumpers, the Trump supporters. They won't have any choice. They can't get elected. We may have to teach them a very important lesson in 2022. You got to primary these rhinos and show them your days are numbered unless you get on board with this populist uprising. You know, numbered in the political sense, of course. Support for brand new viable third party hits all-time high. Well, that's pretty obvious. This headline doesn't seem real. After playing Mario Kart all weekend at Camp David, Joe Biden uses bad weather as excuse not to interact with press until tomorrow. Is that for real? This is from the Gateway Pundit. It's on the Gateway Pundit, so I don't know how real is. Biden spent the weekend playing video games, according to this. White House said Joe Biden had nothing on his schedule for the entire weekend. Well, I'd be a hypocrite if I criticized him for that, but seems like the president should be working. I mean, whatever you think about Trump, the guy worked his A off. LA DA and George Floyd's family denounced mock Valentine. It was a picture. I guess it was a picture of George Floyd, and the caption was "You take my breath away." Look, people put tasteless humor all over the internet. You don't like it, you know. You could say it's tasteless as it's awful, but that's it. You can't make a law against it. What are you going to do? You're going to prosecute someone for making a bad joke? You're ridiculous. And let's be honest. If this leftist who's DA and he's been in trouble before, you know, he'll only prosecute certain things, right? If you make fun of religion, oh, that'll fly, unless it's certain religions, and then he'll suddenly step in. It's the way it works. It's everything goes one way with these people, and they don't have any problem with it. I mean, it's amazing just to watch it. They don't even pretend that it's a bad thing. Nope. Again, it all goes back to what James Lindsay did in his new discourses. If you check out his YouTube, and he talks about Marcuse. Pro's free speech Parler comes back online after big tech censors took its app hosting down and domain. Awesome. I haven't been there yet. I've been checking it off and on all day. But I look forward to getting back on Parler. So you could join me there, and I could finally maybe get off Twitter. Ugh. Oh, here's a good article. Tennessee may pass law preventing discrimination against people who refuse face masks. Yay, free state of Tennessee. The revolution is really happening. Trump lawyer attacked, threatened with death from WND. Yeah, Vander Veen. The guy who made this amazing speech on, I don't know if you saw it. It's been all over Twitter. I retweeted it. He just trashed the media. It was amazing. Amazing moment. And totally went past the newscaster's head. She just pretended like, oh, you're being the unreasonable one, while he basically called them out for their incredible lies. Now, they took and photoshopped a tweet, put a blue check mark next to it. This is all in the impeachment. They made up a quote from a senator. The senator forced them to admit that he had never said that. They, of course, used very heavily edited video, which cut away from Trump the moment he said, oh, please march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Right? So they did all these things, in my view, totally unethical. And the newscaster tried to imply that it was no big deal. She was like, well, you allege. No, there was no alleging. That's exactly what happened. It had already been through some kind of court system. And it had been all over television. And yet she stated it like, well, that's your opinion. Well, that's your opinion they did that. Well, that doesn't seem to be any big thing. That was her attitude. And he called her out on it. And he should have. Eric Swalwell, in the wake of Capitol riot, we need a 9/11 commission. White nationalism task force. These people are just ridiculous. How much money are they going to waste on this stuff? They are willing to destroy everything just to win. They are relentless. I mean, the fact that Swalwell's even still in office after being caught sleeping with a Chinese spy. You know, it was one thing when Dianne Feinstein had a Chinese chauffeur who turned out to be a spy, spying on all those years. You could say, well, you know, he was a driver. She hired him. Like, you know, it's not like the driver's involved with her politics. Sure, he probably heard all kinds of things and probably stole some information, but you can at least see where there'd be some distance there. Swalwell slept with a spy. She fundraised for him. It's ridiculous the Dems keep him. Biden calls on Congress to strengthen gun ownership rules. We all know how that's going to go. Daughter of Lombardi trophy designer demands apology from Tom Brady. Why? What did he do? Did he drop it? I don't even know what. Why does she want an apology? Demanding an apology from Tom Brady for disrespecting the fame honor. Video shows Brady throwing the football-shaped trophy, apparently enraged Lorraine Groves, daughter of Greg Groves, the man who designed the Super Bowl award. Really? This is a news story? I don't even know why Breitbart's carrying that. Again, it's like all about, oh, Brady was a Trump supporter. We have to trash him. Look, the guy's a football god. There's no denying it. I loved when the Eagles beat him. And he finally lost the game. It was a great moment. But, man, it took everything the Eagles had and 2 quarterbacks to beat that guy. So, the guy's good. You can't deny it. Here was a story. Biden breaks historical political norms, fires independent board appointees. Remember all through the Trump administration where people were crying and screaming, oh my God, Trump keeps firing people. He hardly has a staff. He just fires anybody who's disloyal to him. There's Biden doing the same exact thing. Only it's worse under Biden because Biden's firing guys that literally just got hired by Trump in some instances. I think he's paranoid. I think all the Dems are... actually, I shouldn't say Biden's paranoid. I don't think Biden knows where he is half the time. But I think the people around him are crazy paranoid, and they're overcompensating because they're running things by committee, which again is part of the ideology on the left side of politics. Ooh, it's better we have a big conference room and work everything out. What you get is mediocrity by committee. For some things, yeah, you could talk about it, but ultimately somebody has to be in charge. Somebody has to make the decision and take the responsibility for it. And whatever you think of Trump, he took responsibilities for his actions. He'd call out a policy, he says, that's what we're going to do. We're going to build the wall. He didn't back down from it. You knew he was going to build the damn wall. And that was a thing you could plan around. You could plan around because what Trump said and promised, he basically meant. Biden, you don't know what to do. You don't know where he's going to go. You don't know if half these policies he's talked about are even going to happen. It's always a surprise, but not in a good way. Texas sheriff, clear evidence, illegal immigration soaring under Joe Biden. Well, of course, he invited everybody in, so. Biden policies force release of 200 migrants into West Texas border community. Yeah, this is not going to end well. You know, by Biden's own rules, these people should be tested for beer virus. And there's no plan. What if they have it? You're going to have to isolate them and quarantine them for several weeks. And if they're kids, where are you going to put them? The kids in cages thing, still happening. The border's a freaking mess. The only reason Biden's opening it is because the politically connected companies who supported his campaign want cheap labor. This depresses wages. They can hire illegals. It's all about money. Looks like Trump, they're still talking about Trump facing punishment for Capitol Hill riot even after Senate impeachment acquittal. I sincerely doubt it. It's going to be a uphill battle for lawyers to argue that. I kind of think most judges will just throw it right out. It'll be different if he got sentenced to anything. Antifa blocks Seattle police from responding to emergencies with snow barrier. Yeah. The a-holes are still running things in Portland. I don't know when Ted Wheeler's going to actually do something, but he probably won't. These guys need to be arrested for something like that. I mean, people died. You know, Chris Christie, the big fat failure we had here as a governor in New Jersey, during one winter storm, he got into a fight with the unions, and they refused to plow the road. And a bunch of people died because they couldn't get to a hospital after they had a heart attack. So imagine, in Seattle, apparently a place that's not used to heavy snows gets heavy snow. It's very hilly. They're not used to the ice. They're used to the rain, but not the ice. And, then Antifa blocks cars from getting out with snow. I mean, it's ridiculous. These people should be arrested. They should be arrested and prosecuted. The problem is they're not getting prosecuted. Every time the cops arrest them, they just get put back on the street because it's part of the Antifa sympathizers' demoralization of the police. They want to demoralize the police. And they have. And look at the city. It's a wreck. Some of the very people in Antifa who got into trouble during the Chaz cried for the cops when they were in trouble. And then the cops couldn't save them. And then they got angry. Oh, the cops aren't doing anything. Of course they're not doing anything. It wasn't safe. It wasn't safe. And you wouldn't let people in to make it safe. Communities, in some respects, have to cooperate. If you have this lack of cooperation, this is what creates the no-go zones. What we need is someone to go in to a place like Portland and clean it up. And you're not going to get that from the residents. They keep voting these idiots in, like Ted Wheeler. Amazingly enough, it was basically between Ted Wheeler and a person who was full-blown communist in the last election. Rob Schneider slams public schools in person, beer virus safety measures as new kind of child abuse. Yeah, he's basically right. I mean, it's ridiculous that the schools have been this closed for this long in California. And Rob, whatever you think of him as a comedian, I mean, he seems to have his head screwed on straight in terms of the political issues. And he's not afraid to speak his mind. He's probably going to be one of the last comedians around who will actually be funny because he's not afraid to confront that side of the issue. Whereas, all the other comedians, they've gotten oh so serious about Trump. Albanian drug lord 35 jailed for running Deliveroo-style cocaine delivery service in Kent. That's in the UK. Well, that's pretty funny. Eric Swalwell says God is a woman while discussing Trump impeachment trial. Yeah, he made some comment like if God, I guess he said herself was on trial, that GOP wouldn't believe her or something like that. I mean, Swalwell's just a total embarrassment. I guess the Democrats are just determined to go down in flames, and they need to be out of office. And I'm not saying to destroy, all political parties, save for the Republicans. I'm not that on board with the Republicans to begin with. But the Democrats need to be destroyed politically. They need to be in the weeds for a generation or so because they have abused their power. I was around when the Republicans abused stuff. And, yeah, they were a-holes and bad things happened. But it was nothing like this. Nothing like this. These Democrats are on the verge of toppling, long-held institutions. They topple themselves is part of the problem. They're willing to destroy themselves just to try to prove a point. Some of the Republicans were that way back in the day, but, even the other Republicans would just be like, well, we're not going that far. But the Democrats, they've become ideologically driven by the extreme in their own party. And a lot of it's Twitter-based. If you go on Twitter, and I don't recommend that you do, it's a real S show in there. It's just a cesspool of people screaming about nonsense, of people who think they know something about race and gender and how it impacts everything in their view. And they're like scientists with a made-up science, right? They can explain everything now. They're so stupid And yet they feel like they're so smart because now they have this magic key that unlocks everything. Oh, I have a problem here. Well, it's obviously white supremacy. That's the way a lot of them are. And it's scary. It really is. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Me and little Joan. I got to wrap things up. Got to do stuff. And more videos to come.